So hello, welcome back to Suzerain, what might be the final session. It might be the final session here. Again, I don't know how long we have left in the campaign, but we're in the election season. We're in like the last 6 months. We might be getting invaded very, very soon, and the economy is in a disaster. As you can see, the red line is all the way up here, and we're all the way down there. But you know what fixes an economy? You know what's really good for economic development? Is war. So maybe we need to provoke a war in order to save our government. What's going on in the news? Oh yeah, okay. The Gathering the Alliance of Nations. I remember that from last time. We got our schedule. Is this just us going there? No, this is for the championship for football. I don't care about football that much. Today, the management of FC Enrica has invited me to attend a pivotal football match. At Lucian's urging, I accepted. The team was representing Sordland in the international arena. According to Lucian, it would have been unpresidential not to put on an appearance. FC Enrica is finally in the Mercopan Champions Cup, the most prestigious football tournament in the world. For the first time ever, a Swordish team has managed to qualify for the knockout phase. Millions of Swordish people are waiting to watch the FC Enrica compete against the legendary Rizian team, Real Montaliclar. Despite all odds being stacked against the team, the mood is full of hope. A win today would bring Enrica to the quarterfinals, a feat that no Swordish team has ever managed to achieve. And of course, all presidents of Sordland, current and former, were invited to watch the historic competition. I was told that both Tarkin Sol and Edwell Afonso would be joining us in the lounge reserved for us. How are you feeling, sir? I'm fine, Lucian, thank you. We made our way towards the Maroon Stadium. The arena was situated on one of the most crowded quarters in Enrica, surrounded by dense urban development. As we wound our way through the streets, I noticed the name of Tarkin Sol everywhere. Since I had last been here, markets, restaurants, and even pubs named after the Colonel had all popped up. Why is Enrica so crazy with Sol all of a sudden? I noticed as well. I heard it's part of an ad campaign for Enrica, the attempt to draw in tourists, or at least soulless ones, to the city. Sol's legacy still lives on for millions, after all. Lucian's pocket radio crackled. After responding, he turned to me. Sir, security has given us the clear and informed us that Tarkin Sol has already arrived at the lounge. Good luck. I know he's quite the imposing presence. He's gonna yell at me. He's going to be like, what did you do to my country? Please follow the guards to the top floor. You'll be seating in the VIP lounge. Which general did we follow? I think we mostly followed Encia. I'm pretty sure we took like all of his advice. But I can't... there's probably... I maybe a flip-flopped a little bit. I might be a little bit of a flip-flopper. Okay. It's a pity. I'll save you some snacks. I followed security. We entered beneath a giant sign that read, Welcome to the Hall of Martyrs. The corridors inside were painted almost completely in maroon. Adorning them were various depictions of Swordish goats and numerous jerseys, awards, and team photographs. On our way up, I was greeted by the president of the club. Beaming with pride, he immediately shook my hand. Behind him, Mayor Curtin Lest and Ghost Manager were waiting to greet me as well. All of them had FC Enrica pins attached to their collars. Welcome to Enrica, Mr. President. You are always welcome in Enrica, and it's great to see you support in person. Thanks for being here. This match means a lot for all of us Enricans. And all of Sordland. Never before has a Swordish team managed to this stage in the Moroccan Cup. Okay. I have high hopes for today. This is a big achievement for Swordish football. Football is rapidly expanding importance in Sordland and beyond. It's good to see that we will see the opportunity in it. The president of the club walked in, handed us gift bags full of FC Enrica merchandise, and gave a speech stressing the importance of today's match. After delivering his best wishes, he kindly pointed us towards the lounge, which was surrounded by heavily armed men. Not gonna lie, I feel like Sordland's spirit animal is kind of lame. But the goats? I mean, I understand why you would not be able to relate, but I can relate quite clearly to the goats. I once mixed my choices for the military and I got wiped out by Rumberg. See, that just won't happen to me, though. You know, I've already fucked up the economy. I can't fuck up this as well. It's impossible. Lightning doesn't strike twice. Once I finally found myself inside, I was greeted by an amazing view of the entire pitch through floor-to-ceiling windows. Tarkin Sol was already seated on the leather sofa, casting his hawk-like gaze out onto the field. He did not react when I entered. Okay. So what do we owe this pleasure, Colonel? Tarkin Sol leaned in his cane and turned his head to look at me. Mr. Rayne, I didn't hear you come in. He smiled at me and gestured at the vacant spot behind him. Please join me. He's gonna, ring me out. I didn't expect you to show up today. It is heartening to see that you're a supporter of FC Enrica and Swordish sports. You know what? I can say the same for you, Mr. Soul. The corner of his mouth curled up mirthlessly. Tell me, is everything faring well with your new constitution, Mr. Rayne? I mean, the constitution is good. The constitution is fine. It's just that the economy is bad. And that's a different thing. Okay, also I gotta make sure... Actually, no, that's fine. Never mind. We're good. We're good. There's nothing for you to worry about, Mr. Soul. I will decide what I worry about, Mr. Rayne. He sighed. Despite all the warning signs, you adamantly followed your own pig-headed vision for Sordland, and continued on the path that Edward Alfonso started, obliterating our economy and throwing the nation into a quagmire of poverty and depression. You have strayed from the values of the party. I warned you, Anton. Don't you dare go... I warned you, Anton. Don't you dare go too far. Okay, I understand your concerns, sir, but I beg to differ. Be careful, Mr. Rayne. You're pulling all of Eastern Rakopa into a buddy conflict with Rumberg. Don't get me wrong. I may have reacted the same way in your stead, but I would have to make sure the Misor's military was well and ready for such a fight. I truly hope that you're ready for what's coming, for all of our sakes. I have him arrested so I don't have to listen to this. I'm doing everything that I can to prevent a conflict with them. You must try harder before it is too late. Hello, Soldat. How are you? I rebuilt the Republic my own sweat and blood. I will not see it collapse again. Okay. And I will never let this happen. Good. At least you have the spirit. You know what? I know that we have our differences, to say the least. But I cannot argue with your brilliance on the battlefield. If we do end up going to war, would you consider offering your guidance? You're taking a risk going over the head of General Kruger's son. And if and when that fateful day comes, I will not stand idly by and watch my country fail. I will tell you that much. A sudden burst of cheering from the stadium made both of us look out the window. The players had begun walking out onto the field. Look, Mr. Rayne, it's starting. So, what I'm kind of interested in is they should have had this, like, that we should have been playing Rumberg in the football match right now. And then if Rumberg loses the football match and they invade us, that's what I would have done. This is my narrative. He pointed directly to a group of FC Enrica fans who stood up holding colored boards, creating a massive illustration of Tarkin's soul. Under the portrait, the bottom row of boards slowly revealed the words, "Welcome home, Colonel." I'll keep watching. As if plastering my name everywhere in the city wasn't enough, I suppose I'm flattered. Another group of fans raised their boards to reveal a silhouette of the famous Hall of Warriors, a Marquian-era architectural ruin in Enrica, with Tarkin's soul in front of it. As the players of Real Montelacer lined up in the middle of the field, FC Enrica fans started chanting, "We'll eat you whole for Colonel Soul." Right after the referee signaled the start of the match, the door behind us closed with a thud. "Well, Colonel, how do you feel about being Enrica's new poster boy? It looks like it's working well for the city. And if you move back home, I'm sure you get free meals and drinks everywhere that you went." Edward Alfonso quickly walked up to the sofa, shook her hands and sat next to us, smiling as he did so. "Ha! You know, I never had a strong connection to this place. Mr. Lest should have asked my permission for using my name to market a city." "Oh, it was actually Gus Manger's idea." "Why am I not surprised? He's full of ideas, your Mr. Manger. Except when it comes to the job he's actually supposed to be doing. Fucking get his ass, fucking own him. No need to be so dismissive. Gus has proved himself time and time again. His work rejuvenated Swordfish Industries, and without him, Enrica wouldn't be the city it is today. You know what? Gus has been a valuable minister of the cabinet. I don't think I've had any actual issues with him. Just what we need. Another president enthralled to Mr. Manager and his get-rich-quick schemes. You say that, Mr. Soul, but Mr. Manager is a respectable professional who actually loves his country. You're more like an errand boy, doing the bidding of those who line his pockets." Alfonso sighed. "I don't intend to take on the role of his personal spokesman. You know?" That then, FC Enrica's star midfielder made a breakaway down the field. The crowd erupted into cheers as the ball was passed from player to player, each touch bringing it closer to the goal. "Look, we're going to score." Too predictable. They won't make it past the other team's defense. As if on cue, Real Monteclar's defense made a crucial block, setting the ball back down the field. With your strategy skills, you should be a football coach, Colonel. Don't make me laugh. Alfonso turned to me. "How about you, Mr. Rayne? It's been a while since we last met. Is everything going well at the palace?" I mean, honestly, I'm worried. Country showing signs of instability again. Yes, Mr. Rayne. Swordlish politics is getting complicated again. You have to be careful. Take on the responsibility for once, Mr. Rayne. You've had the authority for 4 years. Suddenly, a huge roar shook the stadium. The crowd was in a frenzy as FC Enrica finally got the ball past dominating Rizian defenders. Considering that Roomberg is actively pushing for war, you seem too composed and calm, Mr. Rayne. Well, as president, I'd have to be. You know how it is, Mr. Former President. Just then, Montclair's midfielders executed an incredibly fast counterattack, scoring a goal that put them ahead in just a few seconds. The shortest side of the stadium fell completely silent. It was just bad luck getting a top-tier Rizian team as their opponent. I still applaud our guys for giving their best. Not even SC Gelsord would have ever come this far in an international tournament. Yes, football is like politics. Sometimes it's all about luck. It's not about luck, it's about money. Sadly, money is still the only thing you care about. The only noise that could be heard from the stadium was a shout from the Rizian side. Montclair! All eyes were glued on the scoreboard as the new score appeared. FC Enrica 0, Real Montclair 1. From that moment on, we turned to complete attention to the match in front of us. The Rizian players kept dominating the field. The referee blew the whistle. It was halftime. Rough. We heard a noise from above us, a zeppelin flying over the stadium with a giant poster hanging beneath it. I noticed it was an advertisement for the Alfonso Foundation. At the center was a poster stood Edward Alfonso, betraying with a warm smile and twinkle in his eye. In his outstretched hand, he held a whimsical compass, glowing with a soft golden light. Surrounding him were people from all walks of life and cultures. The tagline, written in elegant and uplifting typography, was prominently displayed at the bottom. Alfonso Foundation, bringing the hope to those in need, one act of kindness at a time. You know what? I'm not going to comment. Just then, the speakers in the stadium started playing the sound recording in full volume. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you this message from the Alfonso Foundation, dedicated to spreading kindness and hope to the less fortunate. Picture a Sordland where compassion shines brighter than the stars of the night sky, where the power of generosity uplifts those who need it. That Sordland can exist, thanks to the Alfonso Foundation. Led by the charismatic and esteemed President Albert Alfonso, this foundation is on a mission to make the difference in the lives of our fellow citizens, one act of kindness at a time. Call this kindness? Every Swordish rand you donate to the Alfonso Foundation will help us provide shelter, food, and a chance for a brighter future to those without a home, without hope. Thanks to the donation of President Albert Alfonso, the esteemed figures like President Anton Rayne, as well as thousands of Swordish citizens, the Alfonso Foundation has already lifted thousands out of homelessness. You too, Mr. Rayne? I thought you'd see right through this scheme. Won't you join this noble endeavor? Just call the number 1-600-ALFONSO to make your contribution today. Your support will help us extend a helping hand to those in need. The recording ended with a few seconds of upbeat, jazzy background music that slowly faded out. Alfonso Foundation is going to be very busy in Sordland these days. See, we've just privatized the welfare system. You're not looking at the big picture here. We're just going to make us money somehow. It's good to see you're at least helping the poor in some way. It's commendable. Thanks for the support. You're both mad. You had your whole turn to plan affordable housing programs. Instead, you decided to pass the buck to Mr. Rayne here. And now you're wasting your time on crap like this. Is this your way of personal redemption? Spending a few rents out of your billions of betraying yourself as their savior? Unlike you, Mr. Soul, I'm not portraying myself as a hero here. I retired from politics just like you did. And now I'm using my clout to help the poor. What's so wrong about that? You know I never call myself a hero, Edwald. His name's Edwald, not Edward. I don't know why I keep saying Edward. Maybe because Edwald is a bit of a strange name. It was my supporters who betrayed me as one. Don't spin the truth. Maybe they didn't have any other choice back then. You know what? I'll let them keep fighting amongst themselves. Are you still sore about the party giving you a hard time after I left? Admit it, Edwald. You never could accept being less popular leader. You hated living under the shadow of what I built. It's true. I did hate working inside your shadow empire, but I succeeded in dismantling a lot in those obstacles that you laid out in front of me, and opened the way for reforms. But you never let the party go free. So it was I who controlled each and every member? I was behind every problem you faced in the USP? Do you really believe that? You were the founder of the party, Mr. Soul. Don't even try to deny your influence over it. I still remember how the party became divided after you stopped supporting me. It is on them for being blind to the progress we are making. Just let them fight. Instead of blaming the party, why don't you take a look at yourself? The same party voted me out of their own vote. That same party voted me out on their own volition in preference of you. According to you, their only correct decision would have been to elect you as leader, and the rest are completely wrong. Do you think everything is a problem that is specifically created to block you? Take a look at yourself. You're the personification of what you're trying to criticize. Okay, can't stay silent anymore. Okay, it's getting out of hand. I think both of you should calm down. I agree. Suddenly, we turned our heads to the field as a massive roar shook the stadium. The second half was already in full swing, and Enrican players were aggressively attacking, weaving in and out of their defenders with speed. Suddenly, the ball was passed to famous Swedish striker Hackens Letter, who was out in front of the goal. I noticed Sol shifting in his seat, his gaze suddenly locked on the field. The Swedish crowd went crazy, and Latter's powerful shot brought the ball to the back of the Rizian net. Yes! Edwell jumped from his seat. Suddenly, the cheer was interrupted by a linesman raising the flag, making an offside call. Bullshit! That wasn't an offside! The referee is clearly trying to sabotage us. He was clearly in front of the defenders when he reached for the ball, or when he received the ball. Halt your endless bickering. The linesman made the right call. The angle was all wrong. A decision like that shouldn't be made without a proper evaluation. What's next? You're going to install cameras and analyze every position from different angles? The excitement on the stadium reached a fever pitch as the Swedish striker dribbled the ball past two defenders and took a shot at the goal again. The crowd held its breath as the ball sailed through the air, but the Montclair goalkeeper made a miraculous save. Damn, that was close. He suddenly pointed to a group of people who were holding signs in the front row. Do you see that? It was a group of Rizians who were holding up signs in the Swedish language. No to war in Merkopa, peace between Rumburg and Sordland. Looks like the Rizians are also scared of a possible war between us and Rumburg. The Taurus family is a puppet of Queen Livingston. If the Queen wants war, Rizians will follow them. I mean, they're right. Nobody wants war with Rumburg. Suddenly, a wave of shouting made us focus back on the fields, and a Rican player was shown a yellow card. With only a few minutes left on the clock, it looked as though the match would end in a 1-0 loss for FC Enrica. But suddenly, everything changed. Number 10 of the Real Montclair dribbled expertly towards the goal and absolutely scored as Enrican defenders watched him in shock. I knew it. We watched in silence as the scoreboard of the mod is modified to display FC Enrica 0, Real Montclair 2. The Rizian side broke out into massive applause as the referee blew the final whistle. Is this the game's way of telling me, like, do not go to war with Rumburg? Well, well then, that settles it. We should go down and console the boys. We left the lounge and went downstairs and congratulated the team for their efforts. Like, to me, that feels like what you would do if you were trying to, be like, hey, don't go to war. If you buy the team and give a good pep talk, you can win. I wasn't even allowed. When was I going to be offered to even buy the team? I guess I'm poor as hell. How do you even get 15 max wealth? I feel like at most we were offered like $3 over the course of the entire campaign. But I guess I was not corrupt enough. We need 10 Peter's party at his mansion. In a highly anticipated Merkopen Cup knockout match, FC Enrica faced a formidable challenge from Real Montclair, and sadly their dream of advancing further in the prestigious tournament was shattered. The match ended with a convincing 2-0 victory for Real Montclair, leaving the Enrican fans crestfallen. A sad day for Sordland. But what's our economy at? We're still in 16th. I'm guessing it just doesn't change. I did whiskey and the rest of the Swedish delegation to the Alliance of Nations arrived in Kerut. The local police escorted us to the Alliance's headquarters in downtown Constantium, immediately recognizable by its shining dome. On entering the building, we were met by the parliamentary guide who briefed us about the procedures. After a strict security screening, the staff ushered us to the 3rd floor. We entered a massive circular assembly hall and took our designated seats. David sat next to me. All the world's most powerful people under one gleaming dome. I hate the UN meeting, it is so long. One word wrong and the world will go to hell. High pressure, I know. Just believe in yourself, Anton. From what I've seen, you will do just fine. How are are you feeling, Anton? Ever since what happened to Peter, I'm amazed that you've been holding up so well. I remember how inseparable the two of you were in university. He was a true friend. I just hope that he's in a better place now. It is tough to be the president, making harsh decisions and dealing with their consequences. I wish I could have supported you more, but time has been a cruel mistress. Your advice wasn't that good anyway. You've done far more than enough. Don't treat yourself too harshly. From the distance, we see the President of the General Assembly, Mr. Nines, approaching his designated position. Well, the session is about to start. Let's get comfortable. It's going to be a long day. After a short opening speech, President Nines called his first speaker to the floor. It is a great pleasure to invite Prime Minister of Lesbia to address the Assembly. Patricio Alvarez stood and walked up the podium as the Assembly applauded. Mr. President, it is my pleasure to return to this podium. David leaned in and spoke in a low voice. Let's see how crazy this year's session will get. I'm surprised he isn't drunk, David chuckled. When I last spoke here, the message I gave was of encouragement and support for this organization and the vital role that it plays. Of all the challenges Eastern Macopa and the whole world have faced since then, one has grown larger and more imminent than any other. The threat of the so-called socialist states and the actions taken by their authoritarian rulers with no regard for international law. A loud noise came from the table in Vagsland. I saw Emmerich Hegel pounding his fist on this table in protest. You'll say the Chancellor's already mad. David nodded. Today I need to come together as the leaders of the free world is more important than ever. The CSP, under the leadership of United Katana, has been fueling Vagsland's military-industrial complex and its expansionist aims in Eastern Macopa. The world cannot turn a blind eye to the increasing naval presence of Vagsland in the Marquian Sea. We hereby call for an immediate withdrawal of all naval vessels from any offensive capabilities from international waters. A lot of noise came from the Assembly Hall in response. Most of the Western Macopa delegates were clapping, while others either shouted in protest or sat in stony silence. Let us not forget about the recent events that transpired in another state with socialist teachings. A state that wages war against its own innocent citizens. Valiant. I'll keep listening. Their purge of the minorities in their country was again largely ignored by the international community. I would go so far as to call it a genocide. Valen violated our past treaties and mobilized our armed forces, deploying them close to our borders and authorizing them to partake in massacres. Lesbia was affected not only by the large wave of refugees coming from Valand, but also by subsequent government seizures of all of our companies that were active in the country. We hereby call for member states to action against Valand and its rogue government. Thank you. I'll clap. We walked back to the seat he walked back to his seat amidst enthusiastic applause from most of the Macopan delegates. President Nines awaited for the noise to calm down. The next speaker will be Victor Smolak, President of Valand. Smolak stood up. As he walked past Patricio Alvarez, he brushed him aside with an exaggerated sweep of his arms. When he reached the podium, he fumbled with the microphone for a few seconds. Then he smiled at Alvarez mockingly as he raised the height of it. And then the real chaos will start now. Let's hope not. Victor turned to President Nines and bowed slightly. Mr. President. He then stood back to us and stared out of the hall for a few seconds. Fellow delegates, it is true that the world today faces a multitude of challenges. In the midst of these challenges, the world's most powerful leaders gather here in Beirut. And you know what? And what do? They make threats, promote hate, and spread lies. Is this the alliance of nations we all want? Where is the cooperation and friendship? Where is the unity? I want to remind you of the wars that the West fought on our soil, of the foreign troops who were occupying our country and seized our valuable resources. I want to remind you of how they stole the oil from our sacred soil, and they did not know when to stop. The ATO soldiers left their interferences never ceased. They finance armed rebel groups whose only purpose is to create terror inside our country. So fellow delegates, don't you dare speak about Wayland before you acknowledge your involvement in our civil war, before you acknowledge your own dark past. As is well known, after the tremendous tragedy of the Valand Civil War, Arcasia made a deal with United Katana, where they agreed upon the withdrawal of their troops, along with the removal of half of our army. Not only did they weaken us, we were left alone in facing the genocidal British Freedom Front, which the ATO funds together with Rumberg. I'll show you some of the evidence of foreign interference. He picked up a large stack of papers and waved them back and forth. I have clear evidence of direct aid from Brumberg to the BFF. They smuggled tons of KA-74s into Valand. They smuggled in their spies, smuggled in mercenary commanders. Okay. He's got balls. Taking on Rubric in the West like that. They have not an agreement. These documents will be published everywhere. Copies have already been sent out to investigate to the investigative affairs of the Alliance of Nations. I expect this organization to do its task and investigate this properly, instead of leaving Valen behind as they have always done. Coming back to the claims of the lesbian representative, first, there is no evidence of civilian massacres by the Vasic forces, nor the so-called purges of minorities. Second, the operation was limited only to the militant BFF, not to the Bloods in general. Third, we know that your government is also implicated in the funding of the BFF, and that your oil companies aided their militants during the operation. Fourth, as a state, we only took what is ours. The companies that delegates spoke of were not only aiding militants, they were brought to Valen by force. Know that Valen is no longer recognized the right of any other country to determine what type of weapons we are permitted to possess or what type of policies we allow within our borders. Valen stands stronger and more united than ever. Our people have spoken. The enemies inside our borders are crushed. Now I ask every delegate here to read a report on the connection to the West and the armed militants of Eastern Macopa, and I ask the Alliance of Nations to do what's right. Valen only wants peace. Our people want peace. They are counting on the support and understanding of all nations in the world. Their proclamation is Free Valen or Death. Assembly roared, with particularly loud applause coming from the seats of Rickian nations. Okay. He does seem popular with Rika, doesn't he? He's played a victim pretty strongly here, and his anti-imperialist stance has definitely earned him sympathy from Rickans. Most of that continent is still not achieved this stability after gaining their independence from the colonial Suzerains. They said it! They said the word! It's easy to forget that it's only been a few years since the revolutions. Victor slowly walked back to his seat as he applauded himself. He saluted the Rickian delegates as he passed them. Next, President Nines invited Martin van Horten to the podium. He walked up to the microphone with a quick step. He was frowning and clenching his fist. I could almost see his jaw trembling. Seems like Martin is not in the mood. Can you blame him? His navy is being harassed by Vegsland every day now. Mr. President, fellow delegates of the Assembly, and friends, it's an honor to be here with you today. I wish we could meet under different circumstances. Once again, the CSP nations, and in particular Vegsland, have shown us what they're willing to do to achieve their political aims. I must first thank the delegates from Sordland for being brave enough to support Agnolia when the whole world left us alone. We were one of the first countries to propose proper cooperation amongst Eastern Mercopan nations. Yet, when they were threatened by Vegslandian expansionism, nobody came to our side. Although Mr. Alavred's voices indirect support for us earlier in today's session, I can't keep myself from wondering where he was when our fleets were under attack by the very socialists he spoke about. So here I am, asking for the support of the fellow member states of the Alliance of Nations. Agnolia is under attack by Vegsland. A loud banging noise emerged from the table of Vegslandian delegates. All of them were pounding their fists on the table. Mr. President, please moderate the assembly. This is more than disrespectful. Nines repeatedly banged his gavel. Order! Order! There will only be order when this coward stops smearing Vegsland's good name. Silence, Chancellor. Mr. Prime Minister, please continue. Why is President Nines a cross between Trotsky and Colonel Sanders? That's my question. As you know, our drilling ships, oil tankers, and even fishing vessels have been disappearing in the Marquian Sea, captured or sunk by Vegsland. And the Vegslandian fleet is patrolling the seas around Hajland with complete disregard for international law. I call on the Alliance of Nations to find a resolution to this never-ending conflict that Vegsland's created. We demand the immediate withdrawal of all naval forces from our territorial waters. Malinvest terror surrounds us on all sides. I call the democratic world into action against the tyranny of Malivism, authoritarianism, militarism, and extremism. The banging noise started again. Hegel stood up and approached the risotto. You are a spineless jerk, a lackey of Arcasian imperialism. President Nine started hitting the gavel again. I'll keep listening. I enjoy drama. All of your complaints against us are a direct result of your capitalist and neo-colonialist systems. President Nines, please, what is this? Order! President Nine smacked his gavel in vain as a shouting match broke out in the assembly. Finally, after a few minutes, the other Vegslandian delegates convinced Hengel to sit back down. I believe I don't need to speak more about this subject. Everything is clear as day. Mr. Hegel's actions speak volumes about the reality of Vegsland and their corrupt ideology. I hope that they see this conflict resolved with the help of the Alliance of Nations soon. He quickly left the podium and nodded to other Agnolian delegates. The two left the assembly hall. The next speaker on the list is Emmerich Hegel of Vagsland. Mr. Chancellor, I will remind you to be respectful of the principle of civility and decorum in these halls. Hegel immediately took his place and spoke in a low, seething tone. Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, buckle up. It's the Chancellor's time now. Looks like you're having fun, Mr. President. I am. I love a little bit of drama. First of all, I want to extend a due welcome to the new states from Rica that have joined his organization. After fighting for years against colonialism and imperialism, they have more than earned our membership vote. I am overjoyed to see them finally represented in this assembly. As our numbers grow and more states are represented in this stage, we come ever closer to finding resolutions to the conflicts that plague us. For hundreds of years, the dominant economies of Mercopa raised, pillaged, and exploited the continents of Rica and Xena. Sadly, Vagsland was also part of this plunder in the years before the revolution, when it still clung to the idea of imperialism. But when our masses found their voice, the old colonial powers and their new financiers turned against them. These powers did whatever they could to hamper our revolutions. They did not want the people to be heard. They are scared of us for showing the possibility of a better path. Of course, they don't want us to succeed. They threaten the productivity that runs in the blood and sweat of the working classes. And now they have yet started labeling us the aggressors? Yet we all know that it's because of Arcasians who built up military bases all around Mercopa. It was the ATO that first formed the fight against Malivism. I gotta watch. I love drama. Again, I love drama. Vagsland holds the right to protect its territorial waters and threats from trade. The delegates from Lesbian Agnolia brought up the Falkio Treaty. But what were they doing when ATO forces patrolled the TNC? They were silent. And what about Hajland? How about the Volgs being killed by the Agnolian government because they protested against an appointed governor? Agnolia and her allies in Sordland have no right to claim they are upholding liberty and democracy. Other nations have no right to intervene in the matters between Agnolia and Vagsland. Just as no country in the world has the right to determine what type of naval vessels we use, no country can force us not to defend our sea. If there's a conflict the Alliance can resolve, let's start with the Arcasian base on Ravenos Island. Lesbia has been housing Arcasian troops and missiles by our border for years, and none of the member states have even talked about it. I also want the member states to look into Arcasian bases in Lesbia. And if the Alliance of Nations truly claims that the people's best interest at heart, they cannot stay silent about what the Agnolian government did in Hajland. How they took away the rights of our people. Perhaps then there can be a proper dialogue between our nations, and the Alliance of Nations can finally demonstrate that it can best serve its intended purpose. But unfortunately, the Alliance of Nations remain all too willing to overlook such human rights violations. However, the Vagslandian government is ready, as always, to fight the forces of oppression and colonial servitude on behalf of free people everywhere. He raised his left fist. Arolaten Zezkor. I do not react to his speech. Most of the delegates from Xena, Rika, and Catan responded with thunderous applause. Hegel shook hands with them as he walked back to his seat. President Nines announced the next speaker, Queen Beatrice Livingston. Dear President of the Assembly, dear delegates, dear leaders of the world, just as my fellow Eastern Mercopan delegates spoke about the troubles plaguing our continent, I have also had to bring attention to the growing threat in our region, Sordland. As you know, not long ago, Sorge aircraft with offensive capabilities were spotted inside our borders. A few days later, they shot down one of our planes inside our own airspace. It's practically an act of war. Know this. Wurmberg will do anything in its power to defend itself and its interest, whether Sordland is actually planning something or not. One must admit that the activity of our Sordish neighbors has always been very concerning. They took in the traitors and gave them protection. Their president himself came to power amidst murder and unrest, yet people from his administration had the guts to blame our government for inciting violence, and they expect the world to believe their lies. Mr. President, point of order! Overruled, Mr. President. Please wait for Her Excellency to finish speaking. I hereby invite all of you to determine the initiation of a proper intergovernmental investigation into Sordland. If the Alliance continues to skirt its given duties, you can trust in Wurmberg to take matters into her own hands. It's also important to point out that Wurmberg will not stand idly by if more Catan and Arcasian militaries are transferred to Eastern Mercopa. I hereby condemn both the CSP and the ATO for trying to influence our region with their military power. Before I finish, I want to say, Mr. Smolak, I'm looking forward to reading your report. I wonder what this so-called evidence is all about. Know that your slander does not work on us. Know that we are ready to die for our freedom. Know that our kingdom stands firmly and strong. I expect a grand awakening. Thank you. Grand Awakening. That sounds like it absolutely is a threat. There needs to be an international investigation into how the Sordland economy crashed so bad. They're going to be writing books about this for decades, man. She left the Rostam without getting much applause. Then President Nines approached and announced the next speaker. Mr. Anton Rayne, President of Sordland, I invite you to address the assembly. Good luck, Mr. President. I walked up to the rostrum and took my place at the podium. In front of me were some of the most powerful leaders of the entire world. I looked them in the eyes. Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow delegates. Okay, Sordland remains committed to the Alliance of Nations and the ideals that gave birth to it. We must remain devoted to the dream of a peaceful and free world, a united world. People are still not free from fear. Our world is faced with the danger of division, the danger of large military alliances and nuclear arms races. Today, we're confronted by a difficult choice. Our great achievements may either be used for the benefit or to the detriment of mankind. I would like to address some of the topics mentioned here today. I condemn Smolak's crimes against the Bloodish people. Sordland stands together with the Bloodish people. And I would like to address the Queen of Rumburg. She attacked us first. Sordland has always wanted to have peace between our nations. Yet we are being threatened by Rumburg. It was Rumburg who shot down our aircraft within our airspace. We only defended our borders. We also have evidence to show this to the assembly that Mr. Smolak was right about the Ka-74s. We discovered that many militant groups in Sordland are being financed or armed by Rumburg. I hereby call on the Alliance of Nations to support Sordland. We are facing an existential threat. Thank you for listening to our concerns. I wish to see the resolution from the AN soon. But the AN is the Alliance of Nations, okay. You didn't mention a nuclear program? I don't think I had a choice. We mentioned at some point about nuclear weapons. That was a threat. But I didn't talk about Rumburg specifically, I don't think. I don't think I had an option. Maybe I never found out about it. We stand and we always will stand for the rights of people of Sordland and Eastern Maricopa, just as those in other continents. Long live the Alliance of Nations and long live unity and peace. Peace in Maricopa, peace in the world. Patricio Alvarez stood up and started applauding. Well spoken. I heard thunderous applause from half of the assembly. Thank you. I left the podium. I walked back to my seat. David did not stop applauding until I sat down. How was it? Your economy is cooked? Look, no one actually cares about the economy. I'm just going to call the National Front woke. I'm going to call the PFJP woke. The Bloods are woke. They're all woke. So don't vote for them. Vote for me. Okay? It was not a bad speech, Mr. President. You did well. President Nines announced the next speaker. Dwight Walker. Mr. President, I first want to congratulate you on your election to this high office. Mr. Secretary, delegates of the Alliance of Nations, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow friends. We meet again on our quest to bring peace and light into this world. But even though some of the clouds have lifted, the world is not yet escaped the darkness. The Katana Security Pact is rapidly expanding its influence. It is very troubling to see the democratic nations of Maricopa be threatened by those malignificent powers. I refer to, of course, to the presence of Exlandian and Cotanian fleets in the Marquian Sea. They are harassing other nations and hampering international trade. Is this not an attack against world peace? An attack against the free trading nations of the world? Today, our obligation to world peace are being tested by United Katana and the Maldives bloc. If we fail to counter this threat, if we stay idle and allow them to surround us with their machines of war and blockades, if the attackers do not face any consequences, then this unstable peace we believe we built will be the world's downfall, and posterity will point us fingers at us for not stopping at it. Emir Hegel and other Vexlani delegates started making noise again. This time Hegel had to take off his shoe and was banging the table with it. I gotta watch, you gotta watch. Despite the noise Hegel made, President Walker continued to speak without pause. Despite its claims, the CSP's actions will only bring about war. Yet, we still believe United Katana and Arcasia, together with their allies, can come to an understanding, for our mutual benefit and our desire to avoid destruction of the world. We believe that all people of the world must be free to choose their own future. No country, be it Arcasia or United Katana, has the right to impose its value on others. But I will say this to the leaders of United Katana. If either of us is to be secure, we need a peaceful cooperation. Not defense systems, forced blockades, or other shows of naval superiority. If the Alliance of Nations cannot find a resolution to this conflict, the ATO remains ready and able to react. Hegel stood up with a shoe in his hand. What is this supposed to mean? You're promoting war in the Alliance of Nations? Mr. President, this cannot. 9 slams his gavel down again. Silence! Mr. Chancellor, please let me finish. We did not interrupt you when you addressed the Assembly. Finally, it rose to the Alliance of Nations to undertake the noble cause of helping the people of the world through rewriting and properly reinforcing its Human Rights Declaration. The Alliance of Nations cannot survive as a static organization. Its size and duties are increasing enormously. It should adapt to the changing world. But peace and rights do not rest in the hands of this organization alone. They rely on the hearts of our people, the spirit of cooperation between our nations. So let it be known, my fellow inhabitants of this world, let us take our stand and see what we can finally achieve a lasting peace. Thank you. Most of the Assembly applauded the speech, the ATO delegates in particular. The speech has some very dangerous connotations to it. Well, I hope we won't be seeing a direct war between superpowers anytime soon. That would be the destruction of the planet. The applause continued for some time. Walker shook hands with various delegates and made his way back to his seat. President Nine spoke into the microphone once more. We have one final speaker before the break, Leon Maliev of United Katana. Maliev slowly walked to the restaurant in his iconic suit. All the CSP delegates stood up and applauded him. Honorable Chairman and fellow delegates of the Alliance of Nations. Here we are again at the most esteemed meeting of states representatives in the world. However, increasingly we are being threatened, disregarded, attacked, or ignored in this assembly. Representatives of Arcasia have just shown this unfriendly attitude towards us yet again. Arcasia would have you believe that we are standing in the way of lasting peace. Yet the peace they talk about is the only possible thanks to our missiles and our growing base in the developing world. The ATO keeps waging wars against people's revolutions and forcing new independent states to be their puppets, binding them to themselves through the Arcasian lira. And now yet another Arcasian president is telling us that we are the aggressors and that they are the keepers of peace. We will not be silent anymore against these lies. We will, when was this peace you talk about? Where was this cooperation between our countries? Have you ever accepted our invitation to talk about denuclearization? If you don't like us, don't accept our deals. Don't listen to our concerns and keep pointing fingers at us. Why did you invite us to the Alliance of Nations? Every year, United Katana comes to this assembly to address real problems of real people. People who suffer because of your systems, your wars, and your ignorance. Whether you like it or not, we'll keep representing the laborers, the slaves, the oppressed of the world, and believe or disregard it, history is on our side. We say to the representatives of capitalist countries, come and visit us. Come and see the revolution working in Katana. Show our continent to your people without distorting the reality. If you cannot do that, then you need not come. We believe socialism will triumph over capitalism in the end, such is the logical conclusion of development of mankind. This time, the lesbian delegates started laughing very loudly. Some of the other delegates booed. I mean, you can keep laughing, gentlemen. Communism will bury you. Suddenly, the laughing turned into shouting. If you really believe in cooperation, we will be waiting. We're not going anywhere. However, if the ATO keeps intervening in our matters, it is natural that the CSP will react. Despite threats from the ATO, Vrumberg, or any other nation or organization, we must not succumb to further division and violence. We must ask ourselves, what do the people of our country expect of us? They surely don't want war and bloodshed. So let us leave to our children and our grandchildren good memories of our time and a better future for all. Let them look at our history and say, once there were great divisions and complex problems, but the leaders of the world came together in the Alliance of Nations and succeeded in settling them in order to ensure our peaceful lives. Let us act in a way to make this session not a session of threats, but a session of hope. and the realization of them. The government of United Katana and the United Peoples of Katana are ready to serve their duties for world peace. Long live the People's Revolution. That was a good speech. I'm just very concerned about the rising tension with the Empire of Acacia. Yeah, we're all going to die. It's going to happen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will reconvene later in the day for the final agenda items and closing remarks. David stood and stretched his arm. That was a lot. Yeah, let's go grab some lunch. Lead the way. We walked out of the hall to have some lunch and fresh air. Okay. What's going on in the news? The Alliance of Nations' latest session has ended with many important takeaways. However, the highlight of the gathering was without a doubt Chancellor Hagel. In a display of shameful behavior, Chancellor Hagel has repeatedly interrupted the Agnolian Prime Minister Van Horten, and went so far as to require the intervention of the Speaker. We would like to remind that this was a meeting of the leaders of the world, not a village council. As long as this type of behavior continues, how can we expect a peaceful and level-headed resolution to the Hajiland issue? Okay. What's going on in the CSP? The Katana Security Pact has issued a strong warning to the Guild of Royal Allies of Commercial Exchange, condemning its plan to re-establish an anti-Malleus military alliance. The CSP accused Grace of actively undermining its ideological foundation and destabilizing the region, labeling a proposed military union a deliberate provocation. The statement described Grace's action as a direct threat to peace and pledged decisive measures to counter what it sees as an escalation of hostility. Rejecting the notion of dialogue, the CSP asserted that Grace's intention aligned with external power seeking to weaken the pact. Okay. Arcacia. A significant shift of the political landscape. The ATO has conferred observer status upon Agard, a nation infamous for its central role in drug trading, spanning Kalrad, Erdmark, Wayland, and notably, Agard itself. While condemning the illegal activities, the ATO seeks a collaborative approach and focus on a socio-economic impact of the rampant drug trafficking. Agard's narco lord, Severus Rios, has voiced intentions to legitimize the drug trade. Okay. You guys do you. Election poll results. With the election drawn near our staff at the Maroon Palace, 60% of people are going to vote for our party. Very cool. We're fucked.